Let the team at Black Hills Information Security test your defenses. With over 10 years of experience in penetration testing, red teaming, and threat hunting, the testers at Black Hills will help you find the holes in your security before the bad guys do. The team at Black Hills cares about educating and sharing their knowledge by creating countless blogs, open source tools, and webcasts for you to learn more about the tradecraft of pen testing and red teaming. Visit securityweekly.com/BHIS to join their mailing list and view the latest blogs and webcasts from Black Hills Information Security. Signal Sciences secures the most important web applications, APIs, and microservices of the world's leading companies, protecting over 7,500 applications and 150 billion production requests per week. Signal Sciences Next-Gen WAF and RASP help companies increase security and maintain site reliability without sacrificing velocity, all at the lowest total cost of ownership. Signal Sciences' patented technology protects any application against any attack, with integrations into any DevOps toolchain. Signal Sciences, demand more from your WAF. Learn more at signalsciences.com/PSW. Effectively securing your organization and its reputation requires a smarter approach. To maximize efficiency and minimize risk, security experts turn to LogRhythm, the only leading solution built solely for security teams by a security team committed to your success. With Next-Gen SIEM, user and entity behavior analytics, network traffic and behavior analysis, security automation and orchestration, and compliance, LogRhythm provides security made smarter. Hello, everyone. We are here. Which conference? There's been so many conferences. This is InfoSec World in Orlando, Florida in 2019. Did I get that right, Patrick?
That's the one.
That's good, because we've had a whirlwind and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to be here with Patrick Tierney. He is the senior engineer. I'm sure there's more than just one.
There are a couple.
Okay, senior engineer for Endgame. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, Patrick, your path was pretty interesting, one that I think we might share from a previous life, in that you were managing IT operations for Endgame. And this is the internal IT staff?
Right. I did IT internal operations for 20 plus years, starting at a help desk at a law firm in Atlanta. Moved over to Internet Security Systems, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And
so you were at other companies, not for Endgame.
Well, yeah. And then I also did IT operations for Endgame for my first 6 years.
Interesting.
And then migrated over into the sales field in my last 2 years. So in July, it'll be 2 years.
It's kind of fun and interesting, I think, because in IT operations, I mean, you're a cost center to the business. And then to transition into the sales side of things, where now you're helping sell product and make the company money, must be pretty interesting, right?
Well, yeah. It's out of that normal routine, I did 20 years of doing the same thing. I'm managing the Exchange servers. I never really got to figure out, like at ISS, I never really got to see the business. So now I'm here at the early stages of Endgame, and I'm able to help grow that business and make a difference there. And I think it's really important that companies really need to look. It's very difficult to do, to make that transition.
Yes.
People don't want to take a chance on an operations guy, to go put it out in front of your customer.
But now, did you use the Endgame product internally at IT and Endgame? I'm sure, right?
Sure.
When I worked for a vendor, we did the same thing. Like, I hate the expression "eating your own dog food," because it's not dog food, but you're using your own products to secure the company internally, and I think that's important. And glad to hear Endgame does the same thing.
Yeah, and that was certainly one of my responsibilities. But we're a small company, so it was everything. So
so you
that was certainly one of them.
My phones. Well, is VoIP still like a thing that IT supports?
Sure.
I would always kind of hope for everyone that would go away, because that was a pain. But the phone telecommunications fall under your role.
Absolutely. And a small company and a startup, you're a jack of all trades, which is I like. I did the ISS to IBM thing. IBM wasn't my thing. Nothing against IBM, but I like the small corporate, the small startup culture.
Yeah, I think it's important for folks to gain those different experiences: big company, small company, and then try and figure out what you want to do when you grow up. Right? If you ever reach that,
I'm working
that stage,
on that.
Right?
Working on it. I think I want to be retired. That's what I want to do when I grow up.
So in your role, you have a lot of customer interactions as a sales engineer. You're the technical person behind every sales engagement, right?
Sure.
Which is a really cool job. I experienced that when I worked for a vendor, and I think it's really cool. Now, your customers are likely either shifting resources, right, to the technical staff that are experts in that area, or maybe trying to get budget for those things that fall outside of the skills area of technical people. How do you balance that if you're an Endgame customer? How is that balanced?
Well, it's such a different dynamic between the type of company that I'm talking to. So whether if it's a small company, it's always a very small team, and then they're all doing everything just exactly what I did. Or you have a big team that is so spiraled.
They're so narrow. Yes,
yeah, siloed. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Siloed, that it's very difficult to get them to communicate. So being able to provide them a tool that can give them a lot of that information that's important to all of those teams is very unique to us.
But that's really hard, I find, because sometimes when we work at Security Weekly and we go to a larger organization, we do a set of things, right? And in a small company, as you know, there's one person. They are responsible for all those things. When you go to a big company, now there's 3 different teams, 4 different teams, and there's one or more people who benefit from your solution in those different teams. What's your strategy to try and educate all of those teams? Because that's hard. I think we share a similar kind of struggle.
Well, our strategy at Endgame is to be able to service those tier 1s, those beginners. So let your help desk people help in your security posture, right? To your tier 2s and your tier 3s, your expert level guys who can now get down under the weeds and be able to really diagnose the problem. So let your tier 1s, your help desk people, help your tier 3s, give them better information. So, which is why we built different levels of the product in order to be able to do that and be able to support that, so that the lower level guys can actually be of use. Your help desk people should be part of your security program. I mean, they should.
That was a scenario someone had presented to me, was that, you've got one maybe security person or 2 security people for a really large organization or even a mid-sized organization, but your help desk is 50 people deep. How do you take advantage of that? Endgame's product actually really lends itself to that situation.
It does. Yeah. It does very much so. We have a use case with a healthcare company up in Maine. They actually had an RN transferred over to the security team just because of the ease of use prospect of what we're able to do. It's pretty amazing, even when I get into the really big corporations, the 10 and 15,000 endpoint corporations that don't have a SOC. They still don't have a dedicated security team, or if they do, they're not. They're not your typical tier 3s that you're looking for. So the ease of use of us to be able to do that and provide that information is really, really important to those kind of teams.
And now, if you're the expert in one of those organizations, how do you distill your knowledge down and share it? Even if you have a product like Endgame, which makes that easy, there's still a skills kind of transfer you have to make in that involves people and human beings, right?
Sure. Yeah. And that's where our mentoring program is going to come in very handy, right? So you want you want to have that culture where everybody's helping somebody else, right? So, don't keep your little tribal knowledge to yourself because now you've created your little fiefdom and you're safe and secure. Share that knowledge. Everybody can benefit from that. So, mentoring programs, for both senior to junior, but that doesn't have to be that way. Even if a senior person comes in, there's still knowledge of that company that senior person's not going to know. So, even if it's a person junior to him in skill set, they are senior to him in the knowledge of the company. So maybe have a mentoring program like that where they spend a month with them and find out what really makes the company tick. You can't document all of that.
I love that, Patrick, because I think people think of mentoring programs as person A who has all of the knowledge and skills is transferring that down to person B who knows absolutely nothing, and that's not true. You're mentoring each other in those programs because the help desk in this scenario, if you're the security person, has very valuable information that is going to help shape your security program. How you respond to malware threats, the help desk is your first line, right?
Absolutely.
And how does the help desk interact with the product? In most cases, they're not a SOC, right? They're a IT support help desk. Do you find them using the chat interactive feature?
Yeah, the Artemis chat bot?
Yeah,
absolutely. So, they're going to be able to see all the alerts in there, but they're not going to be able to take actions on the endpoint. They're not going to be able to delete files and kill processes because they may not know the ramifications of exactly what they're doing. But they can go through an Artemis and say, did anybody talk to this domain, and very quickly get a full list of a known C2 domain, perhaps, or a known bad file that they can go look for to see if it's ever been executed or looked for in that environment, and now they can funnel that up to their tier 3s. Now they've got better information to work with. Now they don't have to do all the grunt work to be able to do their jobs.
We who've been in the industry a long time, we're going to go, SSH in the systems and look at logs and log into this console and pull all those pieces together. Whereas my help desk, who's well staffed, can ask the chatbot, Artemis chatbot a question that gets included, saves me a bunch of time.
Sure, and it's simple enough for a tier 1 person to use. I can just simply say search DNSX.com and search my entire enterprise, or I can use the EQL language, the Endgame query language, to be able to do more complex searches to see if net.exe, who is ipconfig, were they used within a 10-second span? Maybe that demonstrates a script rather than a person actually typing in the command. So the ability to be able to service that tier 1 and tier 3 use set really sets us apart, I think.
What I found too when we mentor each other, the help desk and security, is that at least there's a percentage of that population where if you give them something that's easy to use and simple, but also has this thing where you're like, hey, if you want to write some more complex stuff and learn, there's a percentage that really latches on to that.
Sure.
I can go learn something, demonstrate my skill, my willingness to learn some technical things, and those are the folks that usually move up and become the tier 3.
And that's how you identify those people. Is those people who are willing to learn and are asking questions.
Yeah.
So
I would go recruit. Hey, you're the help desk person that was like trying to write all that, even if it didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't matter. You were trying and recognize a value, and
let's get you on another program to help you rise up.
Completely agree.
People are going to if people are going to set themselves apart, recognize that.
The single pane of glass, right? We talked about the help desk collecting information and sending that up to tier 3. And I think many in the industry have this dream that their product wants to be the one thing that everyone uses for all things, air quotes, security. That's just not, in my experience, it hasn't been feasible. In your experience, Patrick?
No, we go up against people all the time, and I won't name names. I know your broadcast does name names, but I'll let you do that. But there are several companies out there that try to be everything to everyone, and they maybe do a good job of it, but they don't do a particularly great job at any one thing. So we've become laser focused on that endpoint problem, the ability to investigate the endpoint, the ability to look at the MITRE attack matrix techniques to see if anybody's laterally moving. Malware's only half the problem, right? Kind of forgot where I was going there. But,
single pane of glass.
Yeah, single pane of glass, right? So we've been laser focused on that endpoint so that we're not trying to be everything to everybody. I get certain use cases, do you do device control and that sort of thing. That's not necessarily what we're focused on at this point in time.
You're really detection, prevention, response. You're collecting a lot of telemetry as well. So
absolutely, we're collecting everything.
Yeah, I would put you in that endpoint type of category. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people get confused in the fact that, or they think that we only collect information based on an alert. I get that a lot. But no, we're collecting all of that information. So if you want to see what a process did, even if it didn't create an alert, we could give you the opportunity to see all of that data on an endpoint or on multiple endpoints. So.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times, even recently, I've run into this scenario where I'm like, what is that endpoint? Because finding it is the first one, figuring out what it is, and then I'm like, well, what did it do?
Right.
Right? Like I know on the network and maybe in some logging systems and on the firewalls, the report back and I'm building the picture. But of course, in your investigations, when you're threat hunting, especially, you want to see, or just responding to an incident, you were like, what did that endpoint do? And I find that trying to go through operating system logs is absolutely atrocious. I'd much rather leave it to an expert like Endgame that can tell me what happened on the host.
Right, and we can do it very quickly because of our architecture, right? So we're all the events are stored on the endpoint, so we're asking simultaneously across the board every endpoint to bring us back just that specific bit of information we want to know about. So it's not the big monolithic database where it's, do your search and go get a cup of coffee and a Danish, and maybe it'll be done by the time you're back, right? So.
Let's see. What else do we want to so the final question, of course, is what advice do you have for someone considering moving into security? And we get this a lot. Some people are students, and some people are in IT and want to move into security. Some people are electricians or plumbers or accountants or working in banking, and they want to move into security. What advice do you have for them?
So, I might not be the person to ask that question because I kind of fell into this. I didn't go into my career thinking I want to be in information security because information security was barely a thing when I was coming in, right? So I interviewed with ISS in '98, migrated to Endgame in 2010 and built those relationships so that now I'm just part of that information security family. So, but the two things that because I do get this question a lot. So the two things I would say is if you're a young person, go take the classes. You know, they've got classes now for this stuff. Even if it's just basic security, go build yourself a Linux box for home, right? This is not to crap on Windows or Mac, but Linux is going to force you to learn things you will never learn if you're sitting on a Windows or a Mac box, because they protect you from that. They're trying actively to protect you from that. Linux, you're going to learn software control. You're going to learn real networking. You're going to learn the basics of all of that stuff.
I always make all of our interns put Linux on actual hardware.
I think it's great.
VMs, I'm like, not yet. Like, you have to learn how to install and run on a physical system.
I learned more about computers. I was a Solaris admin for a long time.
I was too.
I was a certified Solaris admin. And
I didn't have a certification, but
I migrated to Linux, CentOS mostly, but and then when Ubuntu came out and all of that stuff. So I did, I was basically a Linux admin for most of my career.
Yep.
But the other piece of advice, I got this from a guy who got a friend of mine who was downsized, and he asked me about getting into this career, and I thought about it for a while. And the best, because he wanted to take a class in computer security and then go over. I was like, I think that might not be the best course. Go find a job in your field in a security industry company, especially in Atlanta, where they're just littered with security companies, right? So I think that would be my advice. It's a lot easier to move laterally into a company than it is to just come up and say, hey, I've got a class with a certificate and hire me as your security guy. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
It's not realistic. So get a job, in your field at a security company where you could start learning and building those relationships within that industry.
Yeah, because I feel like everyone that works for a security company is almost just like by design, by nature, by culture, forced to learn security. Not forced, but it just happens naturally. Right? I see it with my own staff here at Security Weekly when we first started hiring people that weren't security people. Right? They now are just part of that culture, which is so nice.
Yeah, and it is. It is a culture. It is a culture, and it's a little bit of a family. I mean, I know I can go anywhere now because I have those relationships that I've built up over the last 20 years.
Yep. Patrick, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Paul. Appreciate having me.